Good evening.
Welcome to part 2 of my recent comic book pickups. Be sure to check out part 1 to see the other comic books because they're different from the ones that are in this video. And then also be sure to subscribe to me so that you won't miss part 3 that comes out, which also has different comic books in it actually. It's not the same ones that I'm showing in this video. Totally different ones. What I have here is Mad About DC, and what this is essentially is a crossover between Mad Magazine and comic books. It's like Mad Magazine, but in a comic book shape and size. And all the contributors are comic book writers and artists. And of course, all the content is, lampooning comic book characters and tropes, and very much in the vein of Mad Magazine. And this is edited by Chip Zdarsky, and it's got a ton of different creators. So on April 1st, April Fool's Day, there was a Mad About DC signing here in Toronto at the Beguiling with a bunch of the creators, including Chip Zdarsky, Jim Zub, Ryan North, Ramon Perez, and others. And I got everyone there to sign this copy. Of course, this has 2 actual Dracula, which Chip always insists on writing on my books so that I can't sell them ever. I particularly enjoyed this Absolute Condiment King comic by Tom Taylor and Bruno Redondo, as well as this Recycled Plastic Man by Daniel Kibblesmith, Rose Stein, and Ted Brandt. This was really funny. There's a one-page comic written by Comedy Bang Bang host Scott Aukerman, who I'm a big fan of. Of course, you can't have Mad Magazine without some advertisements for fake products. And of course, on the back cover, we have the ever-popular Mad Fold-In featuring Batman. And it says, "What terrifying evil could finally defeat Batman once and for all?" And I'm not going to fold this in all the way, but you can kind of get a sense of it. If you can't see it there, it says AI-generated slop. Speaking of Chip Zdarsky...
The Red Skull is Italian.
I have a few additions to my Chip Bible, and if you haven't seen this before, this is a book that I got Chip to do a sketch of Daredevil on, which then I added to with my portrait of Chip right here. And I've got some additions from some other creators, Jeff Lemire, Jason Liu, which I got last year. And just now I got this cute little dude saying Chip. That one's by Ryan North. Hagen McLeod, which features Chip's silver fox look that he's currently sporting. And Ramon Perez went in a different direction, which is based on a picture of Chip from, I don't know, when he was in his 20s. So, yeah. That's the Chip Bible. Comics the Magazine, issue 1. I had to pick this up, of course. I was a huge fan of Wizard Magazine back in the day. And so it was cool to see someone come out with, something like that, something similar. Because... yeah, of course, you could just have another comics website, but there's plenty of those already. And having something that's actually in print, I think, is so much the better. Especially when you've got, a place you can sell it, comic book shops. So, I haven't read this yet, just flipped through it, but it looks pretty promising. And I'll likely pick up the second issue. Speaking of comic magazines, from Raid Press, Blitz, the official magazine of independent creators, and frequent watchers of Ink Pulp may be familiar with this. This is put out by Raid Press, the publication wing, if you will, of Raid Studio here in Toronto, which is a artist and cartoonist studio run by Ramon Perez. And so this was a magazine that they published last year. This first issue came out last year. And yeah, so you got a whole bunch of articles and art and comics by a bunch of different creators. Of course, a bunch of the different Raid Studio people. as well as others such as say Marty Keene, and you got Jim Mahfood here on the cover of issue 1, and we've got issue 2 as well. Has this awesome Danny Strips cover. Got Matteo Scalera in there talking about his upcoming book, The Fourth Father. So I picked these up at the Mad About DC signing at the Beguiling, and Ramon gave them to me for free. So shout out to Ramon Perez, thank you. Shout out to Raid Studio. And yeah, these magazines look amazing. Shout out to Ink Pulp guys as well, who had their dirty little fingers in this. So there we go, Blitz. And I did just mention this. This is the preview issue number 0 for Matteo Scalera's The Fourth Father, which as of the time of this filming, the Kickstarter campaign is still up and running, but I don't think it is for much longer. But I have been following this along the process of this on Matteo's Instagram. I mean, everything about this looks incredible. The weight of his lines, his use of ink wash is masterful, his compositions, everything. Matteo's just at the top of his game, and yeah, this is going to be an amazing book. Star Trek Deep Space Nine limited edition preview number 1. So this is the preview ash can for the Malibu Comics series, Star Trek Deep Space Nine. Just a couple of pages with the script, some sketches, and one page there. Brought to you by Hero. Very cool. Got a copy of Starstruck issue 6 out of the dollar bin, the Mike Kaluta series. I don't know what's happening here, but I'm all for it. Alright, now here's a fine Jade Man Kung Fu Special number 1. This is of course published by Jade Man Holdings Limited. And if we open this sucker up, check it out. There's the man himself, Tony Wong, of Jade Man Advertising Limited, Jade Man TV Weekly, Empire Printing Limited, Sharp Graphic, Jade Man Graphic Arts. The list goes on and on. He's a one-man band. He's just a machine, Tony Wong. And there he is in action. And so this is this is the Jade Man Kung Fu Special. So we've got some comics, we've got some pinups, and you know, some kung fu action, of course. But I'm mainly here for my boy Tony Wong. Check it out. Soliciting his books for August '88. This is a man who knows exactly what he's doing. And, I mean, check out here. The comments from Worldwide Media, if you don't believe me, from Diamond Comics Distributed, Jade Man is unique in its operations in that they control every aspect of production concerning their comics. Not only do they create the stories and artwork, but they also print their own books. And then, Dealer's Quick List 102 of Bud Plant Distributor. Jade Man has an exciting line to offer with their top-selling comic Oriental Heroes selling 180,000 copies every week. So Tony Wong was killing it back in 1987. And if you don't believe me, check this out. Huh? What more needs to be said? Shout out to Tony Wong. This is Fire Sale from Rip Off Press. This was a benefit comic for cartoonist Larry Todd, whose house burned down in 1989. Artist's rendition of said event. There's Larry Todd's Dr. Atomic. So, pretty cool book with a foreword by Harlan Ellison, as well as contributions from Richard Corbin, S. Clay Wilson, Dan O'Neill, Jim Valentino, and many others. A dollar bin pickup here, a Marvel one-shot, The Pit, written by John Byrne and Mark Gruenwald, with art by Sal Buscema. Now, before all my fellow Noah Wildheads get all excited, I regret to inform you that this is not about the ER at the Pittsburgh Trauma Medical Center, although it does take place in Pittsburgh, or what used to be Pittsburgh, as the story begins with that city being completely decimated. And unfortunately, that's about as far as the story goes, leaving you with questions and very few answers, as this was really just a setup for future events in Marvel's New Universe line. It features a very pulpy, Golden Age Spectre-like character called The Witness, who is a ghost and whose exposition is off the charts, and also an Iron Man ripoff called Spitfire. But I do really dig this cover design, worth it for $1. Got a couple Vigilante books here, Vigilante issue 50 and the Vigilante Annual issue 1. Issue 50 is the final issue of the series and features the disturbing death of Adrian Chase, aka Vigilante. And this comic book came out many years ago, but this remains one of the more shocking and disturbing deaths in comics, so I won't tell or show you what happens here in case you're interested in finding that out for yourself. I'll just say that it's some pretty heavy stuff. Doctor Strange Special Edition number 1. This is really just some reprints of some of the Steve Englehart, Frank Brunner run on Strange, and I really just picked this up for this incredible Bernie Wrightson cover. This probably looks familiar to most of you. Batman Dark Knight Triumphant. This is book 2 of Frank Miller's Batman Dark Knight Returns. And I don't need to say much about this. This is definitely one of the most iconic Frank Miller covers, one of the most iconic Batman covers, and this has long been one of my just favorite covers, period. But I've actually never owned a copy of this book before, and now I do. This is actually a third print, I believe. Although I did just see, I do believe a facsimile of this is just came out or is coming out shortly. No matter, I got one of the original print runs. I don't know why I waited so long, but I finally got this bad boy in my collection. If you grew up in Canada in the 70s or 80s, then I hope you'll recognize this, The Hilarious House of Frightenstein. This was a children's comedy show that was produced in Hamilton, Ontario in the 70s. And was based around primarily horror characters and tropes, and even featured Vincent Price, right there, who did intros for the various sketches. Now, the show starred Billy Van, who played Count Frightenstein, the 13th son of Dracula, as well as nearly all of the other characters on the show, with a few exceptions. Most of these characters that you see on the cover here were all portrayed by Billy Van, who he passed away in 2003, but I got this comic from Mitch Merkowitz, who was at Toronto Comic Con, and he was a co-creator of the show, who played the Super Hippie, that's him right there, as well as the Mosquito. Of course, every episode saw the Count unsuccessfully trying to animate Brucey, who was based on Frankenstein. And speaking of Frankenstein, check this out. This is Frankenstein Visions from Slam Press Tomes. This is part of their Visions series of art books, which includes Dracula Visions, which I also own, and Grim Visions. And this features art by some great artists, a lot of them from in and around Toronto, such as Ken Lashley, Richard Pace, Adam Gorham, Ho-Che Anderson, Nick Marinkovich, Jason Liu, Becca Kinsey, aka The Becca, Kevin Manclow, and many more. So like the other Visions books, on one page you have a quote. I'm assuming these are quotes from Mary Shelley, and then on the other you have the artist's illustration. And yeah, just like I said, really stacked list of talent here, some amazing artwork. Also got a forward here from editor extraordinaire Alison O'Toole, who I will forever sympathize with for having to put up with Chip Zdarsky for all these years.
The Red Skull is Italian.
Anyhow, guys, check out this Vision series from Slam Press Tomes. Really great stuff.
Why am I afraid? I'm not afraid. I'm afraid of the boogeyman. Who's the boogeyman? You figure it out. I'm getting out of here. I'm going back to Waterloo where the vampires hang out.